Hi there. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Jeff Stone, the editor-in-chief at CyberScoop. I'm glad, as always, to be joined by Sean Frazier, the Federal Chief Security Officer at Okta. Sean, a lot has happened over the past 14 months or so. Let's start here. How has the adoption of kind of widespread remote work changed Okta's strategies?
So I think it accelerated all the things that we have been talking about since our inception. So we've been around for about 10 years. And you think about the history of telework or remote work, it really has kind of accelerated more in the private sector, starting to move over into public sector over the last 10 years. And then all bets were off when 2020 hit, right? All of a sudden, everyone had to work from home. Everyone was teleworking. Companies like ourselves, who are cloud-focused, cloud-only security companies, our business accelerated tremendously. Our need to help our customers accelerate their business and access to get business done accelerated as well. So to me, it was something we were kind of working towards and planning towards. But wow, did it punch us in the face a little bit? But we came out good the other side, I think.
One of the things we hear so much of this during this transition has been zero trust. How much is zero trust a mentality versus a set of technological goals?
So I think, yeah, if you look at how it's kind of framed, I always like to frame it as a lifestyle choice. So it's a little bit of a mindset shift in the way you do security. And again, I think that if you kind of use the environment that we lived through the past 18 months, it was a good litmus test and really a good kind of verification and validation of where we were headed from a security perspective. Because if you think about zero trust and the way it kind of focuses on the data, and really the access can be from anywhere, data can be anywhere, users can be anywhere. That's exactly what we've been living through. So zero trust is really, it's ripe for our time to accelerate the modernization of security, frankly.
What role does identity play for constituents who are using digital services?
So I'm not just saying this because I work for an identity and access management provider. I think identity is one of the core tenets and one of the foundational capabilities of delivering any service, any digital service, any modernized digital service specifically. And identity has a strong role to play in a zero trust security mindset and architecture as well. So if you think about kind of where do you start, knowing your environment, knowing your users, knowing your devices, knowing your data, which is all about zero trust. Identity is one of those kind of three core building blocks, very foundational.
Identity is a foundational building block. We've seen this major transition take place. Things are accelerating, as you described. Now, what should an organization's priorities be in terms of establishing identity management protocols?
So the biggest thing is there's kind of two things, or across two dimensions that I think about. One is modernizing your identity. So identity has been around for a while. We've had to log into things for as long as we've been using computers, as long as we've been on the internet, but it's been kind of piecemeal. So as part of modernization, there's also this ability to consolidate. Most organizations have anywhere from 10, 20, 30 different identity systems. And organizations we work with where their constituents have to log in to like 30 different things, 30 different passwords, 30 different credentials. And that is kind of ripe for vulnerability. So we need to consolidate that. We need to really focus on single sign-on. We need to really focus on multi-factor authentication, which is kind of the peas and carrots to any good identity and access management system.
In terms of, everyone knows too well that we've been dealing with passwords for such a super long time. Making things more efficient. Walk me through the other effects that might come with a more efficient means of identity management. Are there ripple effects, I should say?
Yeah, there are. And I think one of the important things we can't forget about in the bargain is kind of the end user experience and the usability of things. And I think one of the things that we've done is we've layered on all this kind of complexity on top of users and their access. And one of them is the password, right? You start out with you can use a small password. Now we got to use a very complex password, and users have to change them every 30 days. And we've layered on this complexity to access that we need to get away from. We need to kind of take a page from the private sector and leverage things like Touch ID and Face ID and biometric and some of these kind of streamlined capabilities. So if when I log into my entity at work, it should be just as seamless and just as frictionless as when I order coffee at Starbucks.
Sure. Yeah, it's a high bar, right? But something that I think that people are increasingly thinking about, hopefully. Is there anything that we can learn from any recent news events that might help leaders understand how they should be prepared for any kind of security incident?
I think the biggest thing to pay attention to is, with all of the threats and vulnerabilities that are kind of swirling around in the world, and we've seen quite a few of them drop in just the last handful of months,
right?
Is that you still got to focus, right? Stay on target, stay on target. As I always say, I'm a Star Wars guy, right? So it's kind of stay on target, focus on the modernization, focused on building a zero trust mindset and building that into your DNA as an organization. And that's the other piece too, is to not treat security as this external thing that has to be bolted on later, but build security into your constructs, right? Build them into how you develop things, how you talk about things, how you deploy things, how you field things, and also how you pull things back, right? How you upgrade and decommission things. Always think about security across that spectrum.
Sean Frazier, that's all I have for you. Thanks again for joining us. Looking forward to next time.
Always a pleasure, Jeff. Thank you.